Hi there, beloved of God and Peter. Welcome to this video. I think this is going to be the last one, not sure yet even, but because I wanted to share another passage with you, but let's continue with the series, and probably this is the last one, called Jesus, When Will Jesus Christ Return Exactly? Now, by this time, we have answered the question, I think, extensively. We know what at least our estimation is and our view on that. And if you have other, let's say, sources, other information, and of course with every motivation behind that, please let me know, because maybe I'm missing something. So please let me know. I'm open to learn all the time and grow, of course. So let's switch to the slide. And this was the last one. I was thinking about it. The same schedule will appear in 3 or 4 slides. And then I will add something else, a column here at the left. So I think that I will not revisit this one, but I will go to the next one. So let's continue our journey. So relevant dates and days in the end times. The return of Christ is expected to be on Yom Teruah or Rosh Hashanah in September 2032. The end of the trumpet and bowl judgments, by the way, the here is also the beginning. The return of Christ also marks the beginning of the trumpet and bowl judgments, which are the vengeance of God on the nations. Remember, the duration will be 1 year and 10 days. So the end of those judgments is expected to be beginning October 2033, approximately 1 year later on Yom Kippur, when that of Armageddon, that event will happen. The start of the millennial kingdom is expected to happen in September 2034, 1 year later, because the difference between 33 and 34 is the Jubilee year, the year 6000 from Adam. So also on Yom Teruah or Rosh Hashanah. So this is just a couple of numbers. The total days of the 70th week are from, and again, just estimation, it's just a calculation. They are from 6 September 2026 through 2 October, 2nd October 2033. 7 years here, you see? 7 years. The number of days is 2,584 days. The first part of the 7 years consists of 1,324 days from 1 September, from 6 September 2026 through 21 April 2030. Again, just calculations. The second part is from 22 April 2030, which is then the moment of the abomination of desolation. I don't think it's going to be on that date because it cannot be so calculated exactly, but this is just a calculation based on theories and assumptions. And it will be through 2nd October 2033, and that is exactly 1,260 days. That's the amount that the beast will have in his power, so to speak. 42 months. 42 times 30 is 1,260 days. Okay, so how about the snatching away now? AKA rapture. So, okay, we went through it a little bit, but okay. At the opening of the first seal, the day of the Lord starts, and the end times leader will be revealed from then on. And we know from 2 Thessalonians 2 verse 3 that the snatching away, the departure, will happen just before the opening of the first seal. Do you see that? We don't know what date it is. It is between now and September 2026. The start of the 70th week itself is, in our estimation, September 2026. And that is part, the start of the 70th week, that confirmation or enforcement of that covenant with many is part of the first seal activities, because the first seal symbolizes the false peace that will come on the earth. That's why. With regard to the current administration of secret, where Paul's evangel is prevalent, there is no fulfillment of prophecy pertaining to Israel. We've seen that already. And there are only signs given regarding this current administration. And I believe that all these signs are already fulfilled. These signs come from our Apostle Paul himself. We already went through it in the beginning of this series. So the snatching away might theoretically happen somewhere between now and September 2026, as mentioned. Again, a slide of the, Again, a slide of the, a part of the chronology. It's the same as the previous one. So mentioned earlier, a couple of videos ago. So we are in 2025 here, spring. Next year, September, will be the start of the 70th week. In estimation, that's 5992 from Adam. That will be taking 7 years until 2033. 2033, 5999. You see? That is the 7th year, the Sabbath year. And Jesus will return 1 year earlier. The return of Jesus, Messiah, approximately 2002 years after his ascension, after he went to heaven. Okay, so 2033 equals 5999, and that is the end of the vengeance and the start of the Jubilee year, which is the last year from Adam, the last year of the 6,000 years. So that is here is the end of the Jubilee year, in which the earth will be rebuilt, the system will be rebuilt, the earth will be restored, the curse will be lifted off the earth, etc., etc. And then after the end, the millennial kingdom can start. Okay, so this schedule, that's what I was talking about. Now I added the snatching away on the left, because we don't know when that happens. It can happen now or somewhere in this period until September 2026. So this will be the start of the 70th week, with the signing or the confirmation or enforcement of that covenant that is already there. It will be enforced, and that will take 7 years, but at half of the 7, the one who enforced it will break it, and then the sacrifices will cease. So this is the period of 1260 days in which people who flee the abomination into the wilderness will be taken care of. And this is the period in which the 2 witnesses will be active, 1260 days long. But this period is 1324 days long. Remember? So then Jesus will return, not at the end, but 1 year and 10 days earlier. And he will be on earth, his presence, his parousia, during that Sabbath year, wherein he will liberate his people, and they will march behind him towards Jerusalem from the south. This will be the end of the judgments on Armageddon, that is here. And this is the start of the Jubilee year, the 6,000 year, in which the earth will be totally restored, curse will be lifted, freedom will be proclaimed, etc., etc. And here is the end of the 6,000 years, and the millennial kingdom will start. Okay, now I want to go to a text. I'm going to go through it very briefly, but still. The text is in Hebrews 11 verse 3. To me, personally, it's very interesting text, a very interesting passage. Let's read it. By faith, we are apprehending the eons to adjust to a declaration of God, so that what is being observed has not come out of what is appearing. Oh yeah, I know. It sounds difficult, but it is not. The epistle to the Hebrews was written by someone, and I believe it was Paul, our apostle, but by him, out of love for his brothers in the flesh. That is the reason why he wrote it. Because he saw the pain, he saw the suffering of his brothers according to the flesh, the Hebrews. He saw that because he knew, because of his ministry for the nations, he knew that Israel was put in abeyance. He knew that. And that Israel didn't understand a lot of what was happening then, because it looked like God had put Israel aside, and that was the case, not indefinitely, of course, but temporarily. They were put into abeyance by God, and they were asking themselves, what the heck is happening with us? We are God's people, right? But they were not God's people anymore at that time. And still now they are not God's people. They will become God's people again after the snatching away. We've talked about it. So Israel didn't understand. The Israelites didn't understand what was happening to them. Can you see? So this verse, this text, this passage is explaining that God relatively adjusted the eons. In this case, the third eon. He adjusted it. He put an intermediate period in between. So it's like you have a bookshelf with a lot of books on it, and now you create a wick between two books, and you shove those two those rows of books, you shove them out of each other. So there is now a space here, and that space is being filled with something else. And that is more or less our administration of secret. You see the point? So God has adjusted the eons through a declaration, of course, so that what is being observed, so what the Israelites were seeing happening at that time, like, what is this? We don't recognize this. No miracles anymore, no signs anymore. We don't recognize it. That's what they were observing. But what they saw, what they observed, has not come out of what is appearing. What was appearing to them all those years? The kingdom. The kingdom, that's what they were expecting. And they saw that the kingdom wasn't coming at all. Despite the fact that both Jesus in his ministry and the 12 apostles were proclaiming the kingdom in the beginning of their ministries. Right? And it didn't come anymore. So they didn't understand what was happening. And this is a bit of a cryptical explanation of what has actually happened. We can have the understanding of this because we are looking back retrospectively. So again, what is being observed by the Israelites at that time, and they didn't understand, has not come out, of course not, of what is appearing, and that was the kingdom. It didn't come anymore. But we know, you and I both know, that it will come in the future. So I hope this is clear. Let's continue with the summary. Oh my goodness. Maybe I should do one more video. or maybe I should lengthen this one. I'm going to go through this rather quickly. Let's go. So, summary and possible remaining issues. In our view, the start of the 70th week is probably not the same as the moment of the opening of the first seal. I said that already. I think that the opening of the first seal will happen a little before, a little earlier than the start of the 70th week. According to our thinking, it is logical for the first seal to be opened before the 70th week starts, because the end times leader or man of lawlessness needs to first arrive on the world stage and be established before being able to enforce or confirm a covenant with many, according to Daniel 9 verse 27. Can you see that? That's why I think it's logical. Okay. The last 70th week in Daniel consists of 7 calendar, not Jewish, calendar years, also called agricultural years, of which the last 260 days seems to refer to the Great Tribulation. But it is not the Great Tribulation in total, because since the Great Tribulation days will be discounted, we believe that Christ will return approximately 1 year earlier than expected. So the Great Tribulation is of course called that because of Israel, right? Because of Israel. They will be the ones who will suffer and will be afflicted by the nations. So, and for them it will not last 3.5 years, but 2.5 years. Approximately. That very year will be a Sabbath year in which the believing Israelites will be safe and at rest with their Messiah. God's vengeance on the nations will clearly start swiftly after Christ's return. Matthew 24:30, Revelation 6:12 through 17. We know that it will start swiftly after Christ's return. This vengeance consists of the trumpet and bowl judgments, and will happen in the same sabbatical year. Since a Sabbath year before a Jubilee year is always extended until Yom Kippur, 10 days later, it follows that there is a strong indication that the vengeance duration will be 1 year and 10 days, just like the flood in the days of Noah. So the trumpet and bowl judgments will take 1 year and 10 days and will thus end on Yom Kippur of the next year. On that day, the infamous Armageddon event, it's not a war or a battle. There will not be a battle. There will be a siege. And Jesus will then come down and he will crush them. What kind of battle is that? It's not a battle. They will not battle. They will not even stand a chance, of course. So that event will take place in which Christ will come down on a white horse and will literally crush the armies of the enemy by himself. Read about that in Revelation 16 and 19 and these verses. So in the well-known videos of the past years, it's called Messiah 2030. I think you have heard about it. Part 1 through 3. Many prophecies seem to point toward the year 2030. Personally, it's the calculation regarding the years of punishment prophecy, that calculation in part 2, to me, that strongly stands out. It's a very good calculation. However, an important disadvantage of this video is that they haven't gone through the complete scriptural chronology. And if you don't have that, you don't have the framework to reference everything, if you know what I mean. Also, they think the makers of this video think that 2030 AD is also the year 6000 from Adam. And that is simply not true. They are just guessing because they don't know the chronology. On the other hand, 70 AD is a year everyone agrees on. And this is an important building block of its calculation. So the issue is effectively this. I'm going to finish the video here. So the issue is this. Either Christ returns, this is all theoretical. Either Christ returns in 2030 AD while the Sabbath year ends in 2031 AD. In this case, there is something wrong with the chronology, of course. Up till now, nothing wrong has been found by anyone. Then the 70th week would have started in September 2024. Do you realize that? And that is in the past. So that is not possible. Or Christ will return in 2032 AD as we think, while the Sabbath year ends in 2033 AD, according to the chronology. But then something must be wrong with the Messiah 2030 calculation. In this case, the 70th week starts in September 2026. That's what we think. Obviously, this is our current viewpoint. Also something else. Looking at Daniel 12 verse 11 and 12, there appear to be two positive events that will happen at 1290 days and 1335 days from the taking away of the continuous ritual. A little sip here. According to our current view, the first event is in October 2033 and the second event is in December 2033. So both positive events will happen during the last Jubilee year of this third eon. How cool is that? Remember that Jubilee year is a year of exalting, of setting free, liberation. It's a type of grace. 50, the 50th year. 55 is the number of grace, always. Grace is always free of charge. Remember? Always given freely to the ones who do not deserve it. So, as one of the signs given in Daniel 12 already, those positive things that will happen, they will happen in the Jubilee year, the last year from Adam, the year 6000. Fantastic. Let's continue. Some reservations also on timing and order. Something in the chronology might still theoretically have been missed, so that Jesus Christ comes back in another year and time. Yes, that's possible. While everyone is in total agreement that the destruction of Jerusalem and the temple happened in 70 AD, it could also still be another year. Still. So that can also be a factor to take into account. The calculations that all seem to point to the year 2030 AD for Jesus' return are very well done. However, they think that 2030 AD is also the year 6000 from Adam, and that is simply not true, as already mentioned. Although their stance has already caught up with since then, because the 70th week should have begun in their calculation in September 2024 AD, September last year, and that did not happen. By the way, that did not happen despite some groups think that it happened. So those groups think that we are now in the tribulation in the 70th week in Daniel. I do not believe that. Definitely not. Okay. However, our current viewpoint with regard to Jesus' return in 2032 AD could also be wrong, of course. This is a reservation, remember? while our assumption is that the snatching away happens before the 70th week starts, it could theoretically still happen at a later time. Even that could happen. So please keep all this in mind as well. If there is a really significant change in our current view, of course we will make another special report about that, obviously. So, this is the last time we are looking at the chronology, but I'm not going to go through it. Just look at it. You can pause, take it, absorb it, do whatever you want. And also this slide, you can see here the structure in God's plan, the chronology, from creation of Adam, not the creation of the earth. That's another story. The creation of Adam, 2,000 years. So that is 40 Jubilee cycles. That is the birth year of Abraham, and Noah died in the same year that Abraham was born. 500 years later, 10 Jubilee cycles later, that was the Exodus. Exactly 2,500 years from Adam. The Exodus. 50 times 50. Grace times grace. The Exodus, the liberation of Israel under the leadership of Moses, which seems to be a shadow of the greater Exodus in the end times, remember? So that's the 50th Jubilee. Another 500 years further, you have the temple complete. That's the 60th Jubilee, the year 3000 from Adam. You see the chronology. You see how structured the plan goes. And another 500 years, there you see the decree of Cyrus, the decree to restore Jerusalem. That's exactly 3,500 years from Adam. That is the moment the decree of Cyrus was signed and was distributed. So the 500 years of the 70 weeks started here, and they would end here. But of course it didn't end, because God has, through a declaration, adjusted the eons, all relatively, because everything was already in his plan before times Aeonian, of course. So this is the addition of the 2 years that God put in between the lines, or in between the bookshelves, so to speak. So I hope this is all clear. And we will end with this slide as a reminder. You are the owner of your view or opinion. If you're not sure for yourself, please indicate that. So never say Peter or someone else said that, etc. No, you are the owner of your view. If you still blame someone else, then you fail to take ownership and you shift the responsibility to someone else. Remember that, please. Also remember, anger at or disappointment in someone else is by definition projection, meaning you are angry at yourself always. That is the case. So I hope this series was upbuilding, that you now understand more of at least our view on the end times, and keep it in your heart. Of course, be critical, remain critical, compare it with other views, etc., and take a look, because you need to build your own view. That is what we are talking about. Thanks very much for watching this series, and I hope to see you next time.